All right, we dig that funky intro music. We're back on the One True podcast with Zach Smith. How are you, buddy?
Good stuff. It's summertime is here, and I think we're all feeling the effects.
We're all feeling the effects. Zach and I both had air conditioning issues at our house this week, but we are glad that the AC is blowing
Thank God.
again.
That beautiful cold air from the gods.
Yes, we're so conditioned to have AC
Well done.
for
I know we're
sure.
going to talk about Europe later, where they don't have AC, right?
That's true. I'm going there next week, by the way. Well, let's get into it. It's kind of the nature of the college game these days, but there's always a lot of new athletes to keep track of every year, be it freshmen, be it transfers. We talked last week about how Dave Aranda's team needs to take a step defensively, in the fall. Who are some of the new additions that you're expecting to make a big impact?
I've got two. I think the first one, Samu Tamu Pepe. We're still getting to learn how to say his name. He's a first-year transfer. He's a huge human being along the defensive line. He's a transfer from Texas A&M. He's a former four-star kid from Atascocita. And man, Baylor's defensive line to me is the biggest question. I think we talked about that last time. And he was hurt for all of spring, so he didn't get a lot of practice time. But they're really going to count on him because they're losing numbers. Brandon Bett transferred to Florida. Tragically, Alex Foster was shot and killed. And so, like, on the field, Baylor's defensive line has tons of questions. And I think, you know, he's going to be a big piece, literally and figuratively, of filling that gap. And number two, I would say is Calvin Simpson Hunt, who is he's a transfer from Ohio State. He's a cornerback, and for two reasons. I think one, you just look at him and he's a different dude. He was another four-star kid from Waxahachie, went to Ohio State, and like if you go to Ohio State, you're pretty good. And Baylor does not have anybody, Caden Jenkins, Carl Williams, whoever in that secondary who looks and is physically plays like Calvin Simpson Hunt. And so I think A, he's going to be counted on to be kind of the guy in the secondary, and B, hopefully some other people like Caden Jenkins who didn't have kind of that freshman All-American year like he did as a freshman last year. Hopefully they bring some people to his level. So those are two names on the defensive side of the ball that I really think are going to be huge for Baylor if they want to take a step on the defensive side.
I was interested reading your story the other day. I guess this guy wouldn't really, classify as a newcomer, but basically is just because he barely got to play. But Kendrick Simpkins uh, was a neat story, and sounds like he's going to make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, and especially from a kind of bridging the gap between some of the new guys. I got a couple new safeties in there, and guys like Calvin and some other guys like he knows this system, and he is a transfer from Western Kentucky who played 4 years at Western Kentucky, then only played 4 games last year for Baylor, tore his quad. And got an extra year from the NCAA officially to spend a sixth year in college. So I think he's going to be a leader. I don't know if he's going to get a ton of playing time. I wouldn't expect that, but he is a key guy that is going to kind of keep that room centered and certainly play a big role in turning the defense around from last year.
Yeah. How about the other side of the ball, offensively? Who should Baylor fans kind of keep track of?
I think that the name that there's a lot of people on the offensive side of the ball that are just like there's a lot of established names. Sawyer Robertson, 4 or 5 up front, Bryson Washington. Like I can go on and on. The name to look out for here is Jaden Porter, and it's the local kid, Lorena kid. He came in after that kind of disastrous 2023 season where they won 3 games and vibes weren't very high. But he grew up a Baylor fan from Waco, and coaches have been high on him since he got here. And so now, with really a ton of seniors leaving after last year, uh, and everybody but Josh Cameron coming back, he has the opportunity to kind of step up and be that number two guy. There's a lot of names that, may step up into that number two receiver room, but watch out for Jaden Porter. He's going to be a good one for Baylor. If not this year, then in the years to come.
Yeah, obviously we got to see him play a lot for the Leopards and was big time playmaker and I saw one of the assistant coaches tweet out something with like a lock and 254 on it. They've been cleaning up lately in local recruits. I mean, they're trying to lock down that 254 area code. They've done well lately by getting some guys like, London Smith and Jamarian Vincent and Devontre Kirkland from University. I mean, guys that we've gotten a chance to
Mhm.
see play.
And I think that's key. And I know that was a uh, certainly. I talk about Keenan Hall a lot when it comes to recruiting. It's hard not to when you're talking about Baylor football. And when he was at SMU, I mean, it's if you keep some of those kids home from the Dallas area, you're going to do pretty good. And I think he's brought that same mindset here. I asked Dave last year when they signed Jackson Blackwell, another Lorena kid, how important that was, and he's like, "Yeah, that's like a new focus for us as a staff to kind of keep these local kids local because there's a lot of Waco might not have all the state championships and all the 6A schools, but there's a lot of really good athletes in Waco. And I know there's a couple, one at Midway, running back, and obviously the five-star kid down at Temple that they're kind of hot on the chase for. So yeah, that's a key part of their focus, and I think it's just going to continue as long as Dave and especially Keenan Hall are here.
Yeah, I put together the Syntex 25 recruiting list every year of like our top 25 or so local recruits, Central Texas recruits. And there have been many, many years over the years where that number one, number two, number three guy on that list went elsewhere. And so, and when I say elsewhere, I mean Texas and Oklahoma and, schools that can play a little bit. So, yeah, I do think that's good, smart of Dave to focus on that and try to keep those guys around. Because, like you said, we do have some good players around here.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed Nicki Collins' team a little bit last week when we gathered for the pod. Um, who among the new players there are you particularly intrigued to watch?
Well, I think most of the intrigue for the incoming class is going to be around Talia Scott. She's a former five-star McDonald's All-American. Scored a lot in high school, scored a lot in her year at Arkansas, all this stuff. But like, I am really, really intrigued by Yu Ting Deng. She's you know, I think she's probably a two or a three kind of guard from China. She only played half a year, kind of for a bad Auburn team last year. And there's really not a lot out there on her. Like I can look back at Kalia Scott's highlights and her stats in high school and all this stuff, but there's not a lot on Yuting Deng out there. But she has the size, and I think I saw one like on 3-header is a 4-star. There are other recruiting places out there who had her as a 0-star because I don't know what's coming out of China. So like I don't know. I'm intrigued only because I don't know what to expect. And I think if obviously she has a very close relationship with Baylor's new top assistant, Johnny Harris, who is the former Auburn head coach. Uh, and so I'm just intrigued because I don't know. And I think that she can either be, just another bench player, or she could be a difference maker.
Mm.
And it's going to be really entertaining to see and kind of figure out. And I think Nicki Collins is going to have fun kind of figuring out how to put things together. Certainly, what about you? I mean, for the men, obviously, you have plenty of new names to kind of pick out, literally all of them.
The
uh,
entire team, yes.
what about you? Like, who among that huge group of newcomers are you most excited to see?
Well, I mean, I think you've got to start with Tunde Yesufu, the 5-star McDonald's All-American, the latest probably one and done guy for Scott. Um, he's had some pretty good ones the last few years with Keontae George, Jacoby Walter, VJ Edgecombe. Obviously, all of those guys were Big 12 Freshman of the Year. now playing in the NBA, or VJ soon will be. Incidentally, while we're talking about VJ, let me bring that up. I got a chance to talk to Fran Fraschilla this week, Jay Billis this week, um, for some NBA draft stories for next week. And, um, so during the season, I think I may have mentioned it probably here on the pod. I made the comparison a number of times to Anthony Edwards with, Ant-Man for VJ. I saw, the athleticism and that kind of thing. Um, the and player comps, this is what you do, like for
Right.
these NBA bound guys, everybody wants to know, well, who are they kind of like? Uh, from when I asked Fran Fraschilla about that, um, he felt like VJ was, the ceiling or the floor was Victor Oladipo,
Hmm.
and the the ceiling may be like Dwayne Wade.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Yeah, that's pretty big. It's
Yeah,
those are some big shoes to fill.
right. And maybe somewhere in between there, and I've seen the Victor Oladipo comparison
Mhm.
before with VJ, and initially I was like, eh, like, but then because Oladipo really didn't completely live up to, he was supposed to be.
He was
But
hurt, right?
yeah,
And
he's had a lot of injuries. That's been his problem. Um, but if you go back and look, I mean, he was a two-time All-Star and, a 20 point a game scorer in the NBA.
mhm.
So, he's no slouch. Anyway, I bring all of that up because when I watch the tape, the video on Toon I get Anthony Edwards vibes all over again
Right,
because he's
right.
just very athletically freakish and probably dunks even more with a little more authority than VJ does. VJ's maybe a little more of a floater. Uh, Tunde looks like he's going to go flush it over top of somebody.
Either
Um,
way, keep the ESPN highlights going. That was like you could set your watch to that every game with
oh yeah,
VJ.
yeah.
Keep it going.
Absolutely. So that alone he'll be fun to watch from that regard. Um, but like you said, there's so many on the team that I think will obviously play key roles because the entire team is new. Um, again, talked about it last week, but um, they needed to address the size issue with this team. I think they did in a big way with Jocelyn Bodo, uh, who, I mean, I'm not sure if they've had a shot blocker kind of like him since. I mean, you might have to go all the way back to like Epe Udo, which has been a minute.
Wow.
He was
He's
the
coming
big,
from High Point. Is that
yeah,
the guy
coming
from
from
High
High
Point?
Point. He was two-time Big South Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, that's not the strongest of conferences, but I mean he can really go and protect the rim, and so I think that's been something that's missing from Scott's team for the last few years. They had a little of it with Flo Thamba a few years ago, but I think Bodo will be really good there. Um, the incoming freshman, I think, will be a bit of a project. His name is Mayo, not Mayo, Mayo
Hmm.
Sayoye. uh, and but you watch him, and he's got a lot of athletic ability. So he'll be fun. And then a guy I just interviewed today is the local Midway kid, Caden Powell, who's coming over from Rice. And um, first, Zach, I'm going to take you back to probably the first big name athlete I ever got a chance to interview. I was in college, and I went to Oklahoma Baptist University, and uh, there was this guy who was an OU star back in the day named Little Joe Washington. And Little Joe had some chain restaurants in Oklahoma called Harry Bears. And apparently, Little Joe Washington was friends with Julius Irving, Dr. J. And
Okay.
on a random weekday in Shawnee, Oklahoma, he managed to get Dr. J to the Hairy Bears. And I was like, well, I got to go interview Dr. J. I was writing for the school paper, and what I'll never forget is shaking his hand and my hand just getting swallowed up, by his hand. He had the biggest hands I've ever seen. And I got a little of that same vibe today, shaking
Mm,
hands with Caden Powell. Now, Caden Powell's 6'10, Dr. J was 6'8, but I mean, you expect a guy like that to have big hands.
yeah.
But even just going to prepare for this interview, I went back and watched some tape on Caden, and he had a breakout year at Rice this year. He didn't play a whole lot at Wyoming his first 2 years, but really broke out this past year at Rice. And watching the tape, I was just very impressed with how he was catching the ball. Like when the guards would like feed it to him, on little dump offs in the lane, or post entry passes that might not have been completely on target. He was catching it and he was making good moves and either dunking it or finishing. I saw some like left-handed finishes, and I think they'll probably will start Bodo, for his
Hmm.
defense and stuff, but
Hmm.
I think Caden Powell is going to be, in the rotation. And I think um he's obviously very excited. I mean, he's still kind of a low key dude, but he grew up as a Baylor fan, going to games at the Farrell Center. His mom works at the Baylor Law School. And one of the reasons he went from Wyoming to Rice was to get closer to home, as he said. And I said, well, you're a lot closer to home now.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
stay at home,
Yes,
literally.
exactly. He can stay at home. His parents can make just a, short 5-10 minute drive across town and go watch him play at the Foster Pavilion. So that's pretty cool. But like I said, there's gonna be a lot of guys on that team that we're gonna get to know and gonna play, significant roles. Um,
Where do you think Dan Skillings fits into the team? Because he's a guy who did it at Cincinnati. Every time they came to Baylor, he always impressed me. I think he went off for 20 some odd points against the Bears last year or whatever. Where does he fit into that group? Because
to
he's
the
always
point
impressed me.
to the point where Cincinnati fans apparently started calling him Baylor Dan because he would always
Really?
play well against Baylor. Like if you go back and look at his numbers against Baylor, uh, I mean, it's no wonder Scott thinks highly of him because he always played
Hmm.
really well. In fact, the last time he was here this past season, I think I asked him some sort of question like that. Do you just match up really well against these
Yeah.
guys or what? I have always liked his game and his
Hmm.
um, build. Like I think he's got an NBA body.
Hmm.
Um, and he went down a little bit statistically this past year. I think he had to shoulder, a lot of the load there at Cincinnati, and they had some injuries and just maybe didn't live up to what they wanted to be. But I really liked that signing for
Hmm.
Baylor. Like, I think he's got a lot of potential. Um, I mean, I think when it's all said and done, Tunde is probably their leading scorer. Um, and then, it's kind of a toss up after that. I mean, you got
Right.
several guys that have averaged double figures in college. Dan Skillings is one of those guys. And he did not last year. He was right around 9 points a game or something. But like I said, I think you're going to see a bounce back year from him. I like the video that Baylor put out the other day, just sort of getting to like know these guys a little bit, just sort of, and they look like. And I was talking with Matt Roberts at Baylor today, and he was like, "I really like the vibe on this team,"
Hmm.
um, and Dan Skillings had a little deal in the video where he was like poking his head out from behind the door. I mean, clearly he's got like a sense of humor. I think he'll get along with the other guys, and so yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Um, So word came out today that the Baylor women will open their season uh, in Paris against the Duke Blue Devils. We're talking about opening the regular season, not a summer game.
No,
Uh,
this is it. This is
yeah,
real.
I found this news to be très intéressant. Uh,
I'm
like,
not that far in my Duolingo French yet, so give me some time here.
well, I took Spanish in high school and French in college, and now it's all just French in my head. Uh, but so we've seen the men, we've seen the women take these international trips in the summer. The Baylor men will take one this summer, here, I think maybe next month. Um, but I can't ever remember either one of them playing a regular season
Mhm.
game out of the country. Um, and if so, it might have been like Canada. I don't know. But what does this do for the program to have this sort of global stage?
I mean, this is huge. You just look at the recent his this is a relatively new event. This is the third year for it. And the teams that have been there before are like national champion South Carolina and Juju Watkins in the USC and um, Notre Dame last year with the two Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo and all that. So this is huge. This is a huge honor, and I think that Baylor should be. Nicki Collen was rightfully in her release thankful that Baylor had this opportunity, and I think it's a big opportunity for Baylor to kind of continue its trend as a national team. I think one thing, whatever you want to say about Kim Mulkey, and I'd love to hear some more stories, Brice, but she did a great job of winning and putting Baylor on the national stage. And I think Nicki Collen, say what you will, as much as I like Nicki Collen, like, getting to the first weekend of the tournament year in and year out, that's fine, but that's not going to keep Baylor on the national stage. This is clearly.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I think it says two things. I think it says what people think about Baylor and this year's team with Baylor. Dariana Little Page Bugs had a chance with the U.S. national team. She didn't make the team, but she was there and she had that chance to step up. I think you've got a lot of hype behind this team. You've got a lot of hype behind Nicki Collen, and this is only going to take Baylor women's basketball to the next level. And so, it's huge. It's huge for the program. It's huge for recruiting, um, all of it. And man, it was just when I got that email, I was not expecting it, but man, I was so excited. Like this is big. This is big
Yeah,
time.
it is big. And when you mention it's good for recruiting, I would say it's good for recruiting not just on the mainland here,
Mm,
but
right.
from a global perspective. I mean, obviously, we know, how the NBA has sort of grown globally over the last couple of decades. And now when you look at the best players in basketball, a lot of them, many of
Mm-hmm.
them
Mm-hmm.
are from, Europe and wherever, Africa. I mean, um, you got Giannis and Luca and Nikola Jokic. I mean, a lot of the best players. And we've also seen, a lot of good ones in the women's game too. Um, France is just become a basketball hotbed. And
Mm.
so if you can put your brand out in front of, you know, maybe some little 13-year-old French girl who's going to be 6'3" in a couple of years, I mean, and she goes, "Oh yes, oui, oui, maybe I will go to Baylor."
I mean, the number two pick in the WNBA draft was from France, Dominique Malonga. I mean, she
Yeah,
didn't play in college, and she's
yeah.
just from France. And yeah, you're right. It's going to be fun. So, which one of us is going is the real thing. Like
Well,
that's
so as I mentioned, I'm going to Europe next week on a mission trip to Spain. And last year, our layover was in London. This year, our layover is in Paris. So I could just stick around. Uh,
what's a
by the
few
way,
months? What's a few months?
yeah, what's a few months? Chris Jones, our
Hmm.
ever-present freelance photographer, has already asked for credentials. He's gonna go. So we'll have photos for sure. We'll probably be writing it from here, but
Well,
yeah.
let's not make any promises. I might have inquired about a few credentials, but
Okay.
that's hey,
Yeah.
Baylor football's on a bye week, so we'll
Wow.
cross that bridge though.
Yeah, maybe we can hitch a ride too.
Yeah, right.
That might be the way to go. If Steve is listening, we're saving the trip money.
Oh man.
Anyway, yeah, it should be super exciting, and here's hoping that maybe the Baylor men have something like this cooked up their sleeve. That would be cool. I have not seen, as you said, I mean that was a kind of a surprising email today on the women, but it's that time of year where we're going to
Hmm.
start finding out the schedule, and so that's
Hmm.
always exciting. And Scott Drew usually has like a signature game or two on his schedule. Last year it was, Gonzaga, UConn. Like I expect something like that again for sure.
I mean, I think Michigan State. Not that I always bring up Michigan State. They're going to play Duke at the Breslin Center this next year, so that'll be it's that time of year. Let's
Yeah, yeah.
I know the summer just started, but is it the fall yet? I'm ready for it to start.
Let's get through our vacations and catch
Fair,
our
fair, fair,
breath.
fair.
Yeah, I'm down for the summer for a little while longer. Well, if any of our teams goes and plays on an aircraft carrier, I'm down for that. Those are some cool games. And I think Baylor did one. I'd have to look that up, but I think they did that one time. And they've also played, I mean, much more locally, but they've played games at Fort Hood before.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And it kind of, puts your brand out to down to the Colleen community. So, it's cool.
This is the same reason that I love the Friday night football game, and I know you're gonna, I love it because it's good for recruiting, it's good for Baylor, and I think just think of that
Well,
next.
I
Think of Paris next time you want to poo-poo the Friday night football game.
yes, that's a whole other argument, but I'm not saying I don't understand why it's done in terms of putting your
Right,
brand out.
right.
Uh, but I love me some high school football. That's all.
That's true.
I
Well,
really do. All right. Well, good stuff, and we'll get back together and we'll talk some more. So appreciate you.
sounds good.
Later.